have a feeling we're going to have some passion in this video. So we're talking about the investing strategies of millionaires, and our general approaches are very similar, but there are some key differences in how we're doing it. So we're going to each take our 30-second elevator pitch of how we would tell somebody just how do I invest. So 30 seconds, what would you do?
Okay, first things first, start as early as possible. If you're in your 20s, start right now. If you work at a job that offers a 401k with any matching, take advantage of that 401k matching for the entirety of your career. Just get as much in there as possible and just get that employer match. Then the big thing I think is put your money into the tax advantaged accounts, but only up to a point. I think once you have enough in there to where you'll be able to retire when you want to retire, put your money into non-tax advantaged accounts. That seems crazy. But if you're going to be a millionaire, you might not want to have a job till you're 59 and a half. You could be sitting on $10 million in the bank and have to go to work every day because you don't have any money to live on until you're 59 and a half. That's nuts. The other thing, and I think this is where we're really going to differ, is once you have a portfolio that's worth maybe a couple $100,000, if you don't have the time or don't want to really pay attention to what you're doing with your money, I think there might be a place. I'm testing it out right now, but I think there might be a place for a financial advisor.
No!
This is where we differ. And again, I don't know. I'm testing this out. I'm using a company that has a lot of resources as opposed to, I think most financial advisors are selling snake oil. Absolutely. But anyway, I'm trying it out. They have some methods that they kind of sold me on. I'm going to see. I'm tracking everything I make there versus what I would make if I just kept it in my own investments. And I'm giving it some time to see how it does.
Good.
So,
I certainly respect that. We'll talk about that one because I'm sure people want to know what the grown was about.
Yeah.
So here's what I would say for my 30 seconds is if you have a 401k at work, etc., yes, do that. Assuming you don't or you want to add additional funds, whatever, I recommend Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a robo-advisor. They're going to allow you to do your tax privilege stuff if you want, and they're easy to set up. Requires no help from anyone. Easy to go. You want to create your IRA, something like that. Simple. Wealthfront provides you a simple portal for balancing your portfolio between stocks and bonds and foreign stocks and domestic stocks.
There's various different asset allocation.
It's very simple. They do some smart things for you. So I think it's a great place for very long-term investing.
Yep.
So I do all my taxed privileged investing through Wealthfront, all of it. I would never allow a financial advisor to touch my money. I've tried it before and they robbed me blind. And then the second thing I would say is as soon as your tax privilege is fairly, not maxed out, well, it could be maxed out.
Sure.
Or like you said, I'm going to be able to retire on this.
There to retire
once
on.
It grows, yeah. So you may be in your 20s, but you have 100,000 in there and you're like, yeah, by the time I retire, that maybe is whatever, 3 million, that's enough. And so now just create a Vanguard account, choose a simple index fund and just pour everything in there for years. I mean, for the last 100 years, that's how you invest, right? Then take $1,000 and put it in. Use wherever.
Right.
Robinhood. I like Webull, Webull. We have an affiliate link in the description. I don't care what you use. That's just what I like. I tried Robinhood and I hated it. The app just is too basic. It's trying to nerf it for me. Anyway, so put $1,000 in there and play. Pretend you can beat the market and try to do that, right?
Get that out, right? Because most people that get into this, at some point, they want to try this.
Try to beat the market.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about the...
Now, along those same lines, like I bank with Chase. My checking account has an investment option to buy stocks.
Use it.
And that's the point is if you have an account, if you're already with Vanguard, Fidelity, whatever, you have an account somewhere and they'll do stocks, just do it. With that money, if you have that inkling, that desire.
Yeah, work it out of your system there.
Okay.
So foundational beliefs. My 2 foundational beliefs that drive all of my investing are these. First foundational belief, is you will not beat the market. You just won't. There are very powerful companies. There are very smart people who spend their whole lives studying this who can't beat the market. In fact, the vast majority of them cannot. Look at the statistics. Just Google, like, can you beat the market? And just start reading white papers. It will not take you long of reading stats to say, oh.
and the thing along those lines is, and so I don't totally have the foundational belief that you can't, but I do have the foundational belief that you almost certainly won't.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, there are a handful of people who, over the course of their career as fund advisors, so they do this all day, every day, have successfully beaten the average. They don't always beat the market, but over the course of their career, they beat it more often than they didn't. There are those people. Statistically, of course, there's going to be some people who do, and there's some people who, on average, underperform the market, and there's some people who follow the market exactly. Most financial advisors are not going to be that handful of people who beat the market in any sort of a substantial way. And so it's usually just not worth it.
And so to me, the reason I say is that you aren't going to beat the market is because I'm not Warren Buffett.
Right.
Not only do I not have his intellect, I also don't have his power.
His influence, right?
And the people who beat the market are the people who can influence what happens
when you
in the market.
manage the biggest funds in the world, then
you can make the market do what you want it to do.
Just by what you buy and just by what you say, you can influence the market.
All you have to do is say, I really like airlines right now. And
boom. Well, and like Warren Buffett right now in 2020 is saying, like, I'm not buying stocks right now. So what is that doing to the market? Exactly.
Okay, so that's my first belief is you won't beat the market. The second belief is I trust no person with my money. That sounds super cynical, but it comes out of actual experience. My experience with financial advisors, and they're not all the same, is I interviewed around town. I spent a week really looking through, really investigating. I got a guy who is very knowledgeable, super nice. I believe he had my best interest at heart. I really do. But the system he works in for those banks, for those large investment funds, are evil. They are evil. And I've told you my stories, but I could tell you long stories of where you go into your financial advisor and they say, oh yeah, we take half of 1%. And you're like, oh, great. And then you start getting the mail. And you notice disclosure after disclosure after disclosure after disclosure. And eventually you start saying, what are they doing that requires 20 pages of disclosures every month? And so I started investigating. Read the book Unshakable, Tony Robbins, about investing. Whoa! It'll have you afraid of trusting anyone with your money. And when I actually dug into the actual funds that my financial advisor had purchased, I was spending about 3% on fees, not half of 1%.
And that's the thing, is your financial advisor might be taking half of a percent, but then they're investing your money into actively managed funds that each take more.
It's American funds. It's the Edward Jones.
And so that's the thing, is it's like, wait, you're investing in the same funds that I would invest in, and you're paying them a cut out of my money and taking your own cut out of my money.
Here's your warning.
That's where it adds up.
When you go to a financial advisor and you say, I want to put it in an index fund, and they say, we don't quite have an index fund. And it's like, well, why not? That's like the most basic investing vehicle in 2020. Why don't you have it? Oh, because we couldn't make as much money off that, right? Anyway, so that's how I feel, those two foundational principles. And the other thing is just don't get clever. Don't get clever. It's when somebody has invested for 10 years and they're starting to win and they say, I'm going to do a self-directed IRA, take the money, build a laundromat, and blow it up. And then all of a sudden they lost it. Or they take a 401k loan because it's at a lower rate and I could pay off this. And stop. Once it's in investing and you determine this is in a long-term investing bucket, it's over. Not until you retire.
So this is just laying it out, foundational principles, exactly how to retire a millionaire. Because I think that really every American can do this and should do this.
You have no excuse.
So, number one is start as early as possible with long-term investing. So you said go to Wealthfront, set up an IRA. If you have an employer that has a 401k, absolutely take advantage of that. Get some of that long-term investing in there. That money is untouchable until you retire. And you can get to it, right? That's not the point. You can get to it through a 401k loan. You can take out the principal out of your IRA, so the money you've invested, you can take that out and just leave the interest. You can do that. Don't. Treat that money as untouchable. It's like you don't have it until the time that you retire, and now it's time to start living on that money. Then you have other long-term investing that is intended to help you retire, but that you might start using before 59 and a half if you retire before that point. That money is also untouchable. You can put it in different funds if you want to play around with ETFs and stuff. Okay, if you feel like you know what you're doing and you want to try a couple different ETFs instead of just an index fund, sure, totally go ahead and do that. If you are using like a Wealthfront, they can help you balance out your portfolio across different assets, not just stocks. And you can get into all those different things, and they'll do rebalancing and other things to try to help optimize that portfolio. Fine, but it's in there and it's staying in there. Don't get too clever with this. And then what I like to do is I have short to medium term savings. This is money that I'm saving up, but that I intend to spend. I'm going to use it to buy a car. I'm going to use it to upgrade a house, something like that. Buy another house, whatever it is. This is money I fully intend to spend. This I also like to have an investment so that it grows. The difference is I have earmarked it for spending, so it's allowed to use. If you do not somehow actually separate that money from your other money, you will at some point make an excuse to dig into that money. And it's by leaving it alone that it grows.
Exactly. Now, the only thing that I might add that I'm sure you agree with is when you're using investing as a short, medium-term savings, be sure you aren't going to need it for a couple years.
Absolutely.
So, for example, if I'm saving up for a cabin, I do not need a cabin. This is something I'm saving up for fun, right? And so I would put my savings in a stock because it's probably going to grow over that period.
Right.
If, however, I just sold my home, I got $100,000, and I'm going to be buying another one in 6 months, don't put it in stocks.
No.
Because what if it goes down in that time? You need that money. And so use investing only when you don't need it for at least 2 years. And
a really valuable piece of what comes out of that is if you don't need it, then when the market goes down, you don't freak out and take your money out and lose it all. Right? That is what happens all the time. The market starts to dip, and then everybody panics and they take all their money out, and all the people with money are like, okay, and they're buying all the way down. And then 6 months later, they're rolling in it, and everybody else is like, the stock market stole my money.
Happened during the pandemic to probably millions of people.
Yeah.
It went way down. Everybody said, no, it's going to stay down for a long time. Pull out, and all of a sudden, it popped up faster than I think just about anybody expected. And all of a sudden it was like, crap.
Yeah.
And so now you've lost money.
Yes.
You lost a lot of money.
Don't put emergency fund money, like anything that you could need, like you said, in the next 2 years. Put it in a different vehicle. I have an online bank account with Betterment. At the time that I bought that got that account, it's just a savings account. Their interest rate was like 2.5%. Now, because of the current economy and stuff, it's dipped to only about 0.5%. But it's better than having cash under my mattress, right? And it's accessible. I can use it. That's where I keep a nice chunk for an emergency fund. That is money that's not optimized to make me lots and lots of money, but it's money that's there if I ever need it, and it's there for me immediately.
Go and do that life.